So you want to make a finger out of polymorph for the Isaac robot. Well, here's some of the supplies you're going to need. First, you're going to need polymorph. Now, preferably you're going to want to separate them into their own little pellets, so when heating you can heat up just enough polymorph for one finger, so that you don't have to have the other stuff cooling when making the first finger. Also, you're going to need some form of a ruler with a dull edge. You'll see why when in the making process. You're also going to need some form of a template. What we've used is a Pyrex dish so that the polymorph won't stick to it when it's heated up, and laid out a template of the finger size. The width is 20 millimeters and has to have the tolerance between 18 and 22 millimeters in width. The length between the joints is 3 centimeters, 3 centimeters, 3.5 centimeters, and 2.5 centimeters. You may notice that there's more joints here than there are on the human finger. However, because the palm of our anthropomorphic hand is not flexible, the last smaller joint will replicate the flexibility of the palm. Also, you're going to need a microwave to heat up your polymorph. Preferably, when started from the solidified state, you're going to want to use about a minute of max power of the microwave and check it continuously from there. But you'll see more about that in the steps. And finally, for making inserts in the finger for both the elastic band and the steel cord, you're going to want some apparatus to puncture the top of the finger. A pen works for that, or a pencil. Step 1 of the process is to take polymorph, put it on your Pyrex plate, put it into the microwave, and heat it up for approximately 1 minute. This may not be enough time, but it's better to underheat than to overheat. Start the microwave, and you're on your way to having melted polymorph. Let's see if that polymorph's ready. Be careful when getting the polymorph out of the microwave because it could be very hot. As you can see, it's changed from the white opaque color to an almost transparent, clear and malleable form. Be careful, this is hot. So the next thing you want to do once it gets hot is to stretch it. Why? Well, when polymorph's heated up, the polymers that were formed are broken, and when cooling, begin to reform polymers. So to have the strongest strength of the fingers, you want all of the polymers to be aligned. Once you've stretched it enough and you can begin to see the lines that are the polymer length across it, you can form one last big bunch, as such, and then to begin to roll it with your hands to form a long sausage-like fixture. With that size made, you're going to want to continue to roll out the length until the polymer width can stay within the width of that indicated on the plate. Now that you see that we have the width inside both of the dots, we're going to first take off the extra polymorph at the end. To do this, press your finger at the end and pull. You're going to want to leave a little bit of the extra like you see here. However, you can tear the excess extra off. This extra here is going to be used for a linking part of the finger later. What you can do here is stretch it out with your fingers and begin to overlay slightly that which may be a little bit too long. Preferably you want this to be about 3 centimeters long, but the exact length there isn't that much of a deal. Okay, once this end has been made, it's fairly squarish, rectangulish, begin to press out the joints on the indicated dots. You're going to want to press pretty much all the way through. Polymorph is a strong material, and a little bit in the joints goes a long way. What you're going to want to do now is wait so that this doesn't stick. Notice when pressed, the polymorph is sticky when warm, and when trying to peel up you can deform what you want. So you're going to want to let it sit for a little bit to cool off for a little bit longer. Now after we've waited a little bit of time, it's peelable and come off. The next step in the process is to begin to form the finger. This is where art starts to take over a little bit, and a little bit of the practice that's going to be needed to making these fingers. Remember, practice makes perfect. The first thing you're going to want to do is form the inclines on either side of the joint. You can do this by pressing your fingers on either side, and you'll begin to form mounds in between the joints and after. You'll also notice that as you press the joints together, that the width of the finger gets a little bit smaller. That was anticipated. If you noticed when I gave the joint lengths, that's a bit longer than the actual finger is. Those lengths were picked to compensate for the amount of length decrease that was going to occur when this pressing together happens. With all the joints pressed in, the next thing you want to make sure is that it has a uniform width. You can do this by picking the finger up and lightly pressing this way, then flipping it over and pressing on the plate on the other side. You can also verify if all the joints are made in alignment by bending the fingers and making sure all the sides are on the plate. If that's the case, you made straight joints. If not, you may need to go back and rework the joints. The last thing we need to do to take care of is the tip of the finger. Reason being is because we're going to have a number of connections here. First, we want to make sure that this top is flat. You can do this by pressing down with your ruler, flipping it over on the plate and pressing down, but it needs to be just relatively flat. Also, at the top of the finger, we're going to be having a number of connections. This is where your pencil or pen comes in. Press in the top of that pencil or pen into the top of the finger. That'll make the initial push. It will deform the finger somewhat, so you're going to have to use your own fingers to get it back into shape. Okay. With that last adjustment made, go back over the finger just to make sure everything is as you'd like it. The mounds are big enough. There's enough space in between the joints. You can even stretch on the joints a little bit to increase the flexibility in the joints. Finally, set it down for a minute and let it cool off. After it's cooled, it'll return to its opaque state, and as you can see, we have a flexible finger. Now also you may have noticed that during our break, we drilled some holes in here. We figured drilling isn't something that needs much of an expertise scene, but as you can see, we've drilled holes at the base here with the jig, as well as in each of the joints, at each of the joint mounds. This is where the steel wire can be fed. Also at the top of the finger, where the indent was, we've drilled across and into the top here. The steel wire can be connected up through here, and the elastic band over through the top. Both of those will be tied down with a screw that can be put through the horizontal T cross section. And here you have it, a polymorph finger for your anthropomorphic hand.